Hey guys, this will be video 22 for how to design build a 59 Les Paul replica out of blonde Korina. This is also called Limba, and this is a chevron book matched body. We'll talk about that a little bit in detail. I have not done a video related to this guitar for about 5 months, so it's well overdue, and I'm going to dive back in because as I'm finishing up the sapphire blue Explorer replica, I'm doing a little bit of clear coat work and then letting it dry for a day or two and shooting another thin coat and letting it dry so that I don't rush it. And that's been drying for about 2 days. So I'm getting ready to wet sand the back of that guitar and then assemble it. But while I'm doing that, as I mentioned in several videos back, I was, in my shop trying to find things to do. And that's when I got to think, I thought, well, I could finish this guitar over here and that guitar. And then I kept looking at this guitar, which was actually upstairs in my music room where I store all my guitars. And I was like, I guess I need to just go ahead and shoot that gold on there and turn this baby into a gold top. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video, is how to do a gold top. And I may talk a little bit about Stuart McDonald templates and how I got here. But if you go to video 22 for this how to design build or building a 59, let me look at my template. Because it's been so long since I had done a video related to this guitar, I didn't even know how to title it. Basically, just go to like video 21, building a 1959 Korina Les Paul replica using StewMac 59 Les Paul templates. So that'll take you back about 5 months, and I go into an extensive deep dive as to how to use these templates, how to lay this guitar. So much stuff got into it. It was a great video because I just watched it and I'd forgotten all about that video because I really did a deep dive about the layout and the pitch and stuff, which is kind of fresh on my mind from doing the video last night about building the black Limba Explorer replica and setting all that pitch. But in this video, I'm going to talk about gold top lacquers that you can buy. I bought this off of eBay. I think it was like $10. It was a little bottle of pre-mixed lacquer. I'm not into going all vintage correct with the powder and trying to mix in the clear and stuff. I know you can do that. That's fine. But what I did with this, and I'm going to be all over the map for about 2 minutes here. But what I did was, let me get a paper towel. I made my own vintage gold top. I blended this lacquer, which I got from Tennessee, and again, it wasn't a powder, it was actual lacquer that you could have either like brushed. It's called Alcad 2 lacquer. But I basically, when I poured it into this container, it was about, that probably would have been about 1 ounce or maybe 2 ounces or something. It wasn't very much, but the rest of that is Baileen's Mohawk M610 1406 clear lacquer. However, I shot a little bit of honey amber in it because I wanted to give it that vintage look. And if you looked into the glass bottle where I had the clear lacquer, it was about that color right there. It was kind of an amber, orange amber. So right out of the gate, when I shot this first base color, I immediately had a little bit richer, deeper, darker, warmer, more vintage amber. I mean, a vintage gold, which is what I really wanted because I want this thing to look fairly old. There's a strong possibility I'm going to distress this guitar. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well because I don't want this one to look like a shiny, brand new, store-bought guitar. This is most likely going to remain in my personal stock because it just is. Because this is pretty rare, and if you were to contract with a guitar builder to build something like this, or if you order this custom from the custom shop, this is probably a $10,000 guitar. Is it worth that? No, hell no, not at all, not at all. I wouldn't dare pay that much for a guitar unless I'm an affluent purchaser or something like that. If it's a good investment, but it doesn't take much more to build this. It doesn't take any more to build this than it does, a different that guitar, this guitar over here. So it's just you have to spend a lot more money on your wood. Okay, so all right, let me check the time. All right, 5 minute intro. I'm going to go with this. I'm not going to erase this video because I don't want to risk skipping what's on the table here and then forgetting something that was really important, because I do want to get into distressing a little bit before this video ends, and how to distress it to make it truly look like it's a 70-year-old guitar that might have got stored in grandpa's attic or something like that and suffered through the brutal, cold climates and the brutal summers and stuff like that. So I'm going to show you kind of how to do that authentic distressing a little bit, not a lot, but one thing, and then of course I'll get into a little bit of the mixing, but I already talked about that enough that to know that just take a mental image of that, and that would be kind of your target. And I'll show you something to make sure that's tight. That to me, that's kind of a vintage gold top. And also, when you do your mix, when you look through, you hold it up in the light, shake it, and then look through the glass. Fairly quickly, you should see the glass turn clear. Because the whole idea about this is we're not painting it per se. We're building up gold coats that we're trying to keep really, really thin, because we don't want to choke out the top and choke out the tone. And that's why this is on here. So if you have earbuds in, and I should have warned you just then, I'm about to do some fairly brutal tap toning, and I want to show you what a Korina. This is quarter some. This is pure quarter some. The neck is pure quarter some. And as far as capturing tone, this guitar is pretty much off the charts. So, and I'll leave that screwdriver up there. So I'll talk about tap tone in a little while. But when you hear the tap tone in this body, if you can achieve that in your build, that's going to be ethereal bliss, as far as capturing like a vintage guitar that has real old growth wood that is kind of dried out. I like working with the Limba or the Korina because it comes right out of the gate. Naturally, it's a very dry wood, and it already has those tones to it. Okay, so how do you get here? I didn't want to load my spray equipment up because my spray gun has a fairly fine tip, and I knew there was a whole bunch of tint in there, and I figured I would just have a clogging nightmare. So I ended up using this little big box store Preval spray system. Preval, I guess it's a Preval. We'll call it Preval. I don't know how to pronounce it, but you buy it. This is like $6. And you can mix your own colors, and then obviously you have the little spray, cartridge here at the top. I'm not going to get into how to use this thing or the quirkiness about it, but once you put these together, you no longer shake it, and you can't tip it over because I really don't even know how it works, other than it's a charged canister that will atomize, I think, something like 16 ounces. It doesn't matter, but you can atomize quite a bit. But if you were painting the whole guitar, it might take 3 or 4 of these, and they're about $6 each. But just to spray this gold top, this is all I really needed. So anyway, and what I'll do in real time, after I do some general discussion about this, I'm going to pause the camera, and I'm going to go shoot a thin coat of it. I'm just going to step outside the basement door here because it's a beautiful, clear, cool day, zero humidity, and I'm just going to spray it outside, and that'll keep the odor down in the basement. So, but anyway, so again, I didn't paint this straight out of the bottle, and I was worried that, oh gosh, I don't even know if I'm going to have enough, because I had no idea how what's this word? What's the word? I think when it's called condensed. Oh, it's a real dense chemical. It was pretty concentrated. It was far more concentrated than I had any idea. It was almost too concentrated. Well, actually it was. So I had to add quite a bit of clear lacquer, even atop the tinted lacquer, in order to get a good sprayable material. Okay. And that's one of those things, if you don't know what you're doing, maybe get with someone who does, because that's a pretty hot chemical. It dries really fast, and you need to really have control of it as you're spraying it. And I'll shoot really straight with you. I spent about 25 minutes doing some leveling and sanding because it was fairly orange peeled, almost to the point where it was embarrassing. I sprayed it a little bit heavy late yesterday, and but nonetheless, it's the lacquer dries so fast that you're able to come in. I came in with a 220 and really leveled it down, and then caught the low spots and stuff like that. And then asked myself, if you see video 21, I spent a lot of time with scrapers showing you how I scraped and achieved these contours right here, referencing the StewMac templates a little bit. So I'll go ahead and segue into talking about these templates. And there's a part of me, I want to do a little bit more scraping, but I'm going to leave it alone because the StewMac templates, which are based on an authentic 59 Les Paul, a genuine Les Paul, I'm not so sure it is, because this is a little bit soft, more modern, softer transition than I've seen, like on the any videos that you might trip upon where they're truly showing a vintage guitar and you can see it turn in the light or something like that, and you'll capture the curvature right here. All that's really critical to achieving an authentic looking 59. Now, and I'll go ahead and talk about carved tops just a little bit, but I don't carve my tops identical to the Les Paul or any sort of vintage Paul or even a modern one. They tend to have a fatter belly back here, and I just don't like that look. I hate that look. What I do is, as soon as I come out from under the location where the hardtail is, I go ahead and start sloping off on a real soft, gentle slope. I don't want a belly back here at all, because if I'm coming in with like a vintage B7, now this is a B6, this wouldn't go on this guitar, but if I'm coming in with a vintage B7, I don't want this thing, sticking up way high right here. I want it to be as low as possible up here, with respect to the arch, because you don't want to lose any of this beauty right in here. But basically, from here back, this is my own carve. This is really not even a 59, because the worst thing that most of these replicators, and I've never played any of the modern, like, custom shop guitars, but if you carve this out too much, if you come in and you carve this out way too much right in here to try to make it look vintage and real, antique looking, you're going to create such an unbelievably sharp edge right here. It's going to be painful to play. And I have a tendency, as soon as I come out of this, what's called the pinch, and I do a fairly pronounced carve right here, because my forearm never gets any farther. None of our forearms should get any farther than about that location right there, maybe right there. So you can run the risk of doing a little bit of a pronounced scoop up to that point, but you better come out fairly fast and flatten out. It does recurve, but then once I get back here, I get a little bit more pronounced around this location, and and I just kind of work my way around. I might pinch a little bit more down here, but try to keep it symmetrical. I shouldn't have even started talking about that, because I spent plenty of time in video 21 talking about carving and all that jazz. But I know why I brought it up. I brought it up because after I shot that coat of gold last night, I was asking myself, is that what I want to see? And there's a part of me, I like a real pronounced pinch, but when I referred to the Stuart McDonald Les Paul templates, which is, while I'm doing these videos, let me see if I can get it to stand up. That would be a miracle. I don't think there's any way I can get it to stand up. So I'm going to do the best I can to not drop the guitar first and foremost. but hopefully you'll be able to see. Let me put it where it needs to be. Okay, look at this location right here, and look at this location right here, and then look at this location in the middle. You'll see that my guitar top is not nearly as pronounced. It's not a real fat belly like this one, because all the pictures I saw of the vintage Pauls, they were a lot more flat up here than most people would like to admit. And then once they got over here, they pinched off fairly pronounced and did the scoop work in the middle. Now, every one of them probably varied, because I don't know who was doing their carving. It was probably Larry Allers that was doing their initial carving, but I went ahead and pinched a little bit more right here. So in other words, I carved down deeper, but I'm a little bit flat right here intentionally. Okay. And if anything, if this is boring to you, then that's cool. I respect that. But if this is boring to you, you definitely are not into building guitars, because this is kind of the holy grail stuff that we're looking for in order to achieve that vibe of the true 50s hand carved guitar. Okay. So basically, on that note, you could actually slide. Wow, it's probably I'm probably a 1/16 of an inch, or roughly 1 millimeter deeper right here, and I'm about I'm about a 32nd to a half a millimeter, a little bit lower and flatter in the middle, and the same thing over here. I'm about a 1/16 of an inch deeper in the little pinch. Okay, so and you can see where I had come in. No, I'm thinking of a different guitar. I initially had marked. Oh, I know it was. I initially had marked these locations right here, the tailpiece, in order to install tailpiece anchors, and then the bridge location. But then I got to thinking about this guitar, and I had tripped up on a video once where I heard a guy talk. I think it was Phil Jones was talking about the rarest of the rarest 50s Les Pauls were the ones that were ordered from the factory with the ABR1 bridge, of course, but they did not machine the anchors. They did not machine for these tall anchors right here, because it was a special order guitar that had I'm talking about like mid 50s, not the early 50s where it had the whatever that thing's called, the trapeze or whatnot, but it had the ABR1, but it had the B7 Bigsby, and then there were no anchor hole locations. And then if you were really lucky, you still had the vintage Bigsby, because I made the mistake about 20 years when I was buying up all the vintage Bigsbys. This is would be a roughly early 60s B6. I passed on a lot of the B7 vintage B7s that I would have been able to buy them for $120, $130, $140 tops back then, and now those are, man, they're, according to their condition, they're anywhere from $700 to $2,000 or $3,000 for a vintage B7, because they're so rare, so rare. But I'm keeping my eyes open for an authentic 60s, early 60s B7, and trying to snatch that up. But so I say that to say this: I'm only going to be installing the ABR1 location here, and even if I have to put a reproduction B7 on this one, I'm going to do that. So I'm not going to be putting any tailpiece anchors in this one. But at the end of this video, I will do a mock-up. I will do a mock-up showing that stuff. So because I've got some gold here, this is just affordable stuff that I use for for demo purposes. So I'm going to do a little bit of mock-up at the end, primarily for my own selfish reasons, because it allows me to watch the video later on and pause and ask myself, how do what about the vintage Bigsby? Or maybe I found the vintage B7 that's, let's say it's $400. Then I got to make the determination of should I bite that bullet? Well, I built the guitar for 20% of what a typical custom builder would charge for this guitar, And that Bigsby, if I put that on, if I invest 400 in that Bigsby, install it on this guitar, it's gonna improve its value, considerably anyway. So, I'll cross that bridge later. But I say that to say this: I'm pretty cheap when it comes to building these guitars. I try to get off on the cheap as much as I can. Okay, I should have created a set list. Let me check the time. 20 minutes. Wow. Yeah, if I don't get back on track here fairly soon, I'm going to erase this video and start over. So, okay, let's do this. Let me go ahead and pause and shoot the gold, and then I'll come back. It should be dry enough to do a little bit of sanding, and then we'll go from there. I completely forgot to talk about the tap tones before I shoot this coat of gold on here. So, and also I failed to mention the whole reason I did this video, because there was a very strong possibility I was actually going to do some more shaping. But since I elected not to, I just want to let you know this is roughly, when you're looking at your French curve, that's roughly the location where I came in and did the work. But then I flared over just a little bit more. So that's the location I achieved my pinch. This is would be too pronounced, and this over here would be too flat. So that's about the location for a real nice pinch on this size body. Now let's do a little bit of tap tone analysis, and I'll do it on the table just a little bit, but then I'm going to pick it up because I don't want the tabletop echoing as well. So if you got earbuds in, I'd pull them out or turn the volume down until it's comfortable. But what you're about to hear, this is the target that I'm shooting for a 59 Les Paul replica as far as what it sounds like. Okay. I know it's kind of annoying to a lot of you guys. I don't think it would be any different on the back. Now, keep in mind, this guitar is an engineered chambered body. This is not a solid body guitar because I had to get the weight off of it. This being a dense quarter sawn Korina, this would have ended up being a 10-pound guitar otherwise. And I don't care what it sounded like or looked like. I don't want a guitar that weighs over 8.25 pounds, or 8.5 pounds, or something like that. So I did chamber it. Let me pause briefly and I'll get the template. That way at least you can see it. Or if you're really interested in building this guitar, go back to the early videos. But let me pause briefly. Okay, anytime you're building a guitar, especially if you're building more than one, always keep different templates for those guitars. This is the black Les Paul standard replica that I built. That's the chambering on that one. And then this is the Korina Les Paul replica. And the way I chamber them is, the whole idea of the chambering started by looking at this right here and trying to keep it symmetrical. All I did was I flipped this over, and that became that location right there for that chambering. You only want to route down, you want to make certain that you leave a minimum of about 3/8 of an inch thick in the back. In these guitars, I left about 5/8 of an inch roughly. It's a 1/2 inch to a 5/8. I don't want a 7-pound Les Paul replica, but I wanted to lighten it up a little bit. And then obviously, after that, I did come in and create, now I was through that template. So then I just came in and, working off the center line, I just created like a little sardine size canister route right there. Same depth, left the back of the guitar about, 5/8 of an inch. in that area right there, and then obviously all this routed pretty much all the way through. But then I do this design here where I just follow the perimeter of the body and then come in and then I create a straight line right here and then I bring it down on an angle because I can't get into the control cab, the wiring channel, but I make certain that the thickness, the sidewall don't go under a half inch and try to stay a little bit wider than that. Okay, I got under a half inch right there, but it's not the end of the world because of the possibility, as I had mentioned in some of my past videos, I like to know that if I want to put a master volume in my custom guitar for the way I play the guitar, I want to know that I'm able to run wiring through there, and I did. But this guitar looks like an authentic '50s guitar, as long as you don't do that wiring. I mean that drilling or routing and cutting and all that jazz. And then there's just a triangle right there. Okay, and that took off a considerable amount of weight. I covered all this in video form back in the early videos, and this one's basically identical, the triangle right here, but I added another small fillet route right there, and then I think this, yeah, I separated these on the black 59 standard. It's a small route here, and then a small triangle here, so it connects. It's not open like this one. But so in essence, what happens is you now have these tone bars that are traveling down this location right here. You know, it's a continuation. You never break that join. You always want to have a tone bar transition all the way down, and that acts kind of like a jazz guitar or a chambered guitar. So try not to break the guitar in half. Just relieve weight on either side, but make certain that you don't disturb that center line unless you come in the center and just take out some area right there. Because if you only relieve here and here and here, you're not going to show much drop in weight. But once you take that mass out right there, that's a considerable weight drop right there. But I had to make certain that in the black standard guitar that I built, that I left room to come in and actually bore down and do the anchors. Okay, and this one sounds incredible. I didn't want to. I don't know why I'm spending so much time talking about this stuff, other than I guess this is just what it takes to build a guitar. And sadly, I know I've already covered that in this video series, but because it's been 5, 6, or 7 months, most of you guys tripping up on this, you would look at this and go, "Oh, wow, that's like a solid body." You know what? It's nowhere near it. This is not even truly, other than just appearance. This is not like a '59 replica. This is more of to me, this is more of like an engineered, chambered, small body jazz guitar. So, okay. All right. Now, well, the only thing I didn't talk about was if you're going to distress it a little bit, make the determination as to when to stop your work. I want to go ahead and take this one up to a fairly beautiful, slick finish. But if I wanted to distress it a little bit, make it look like Grandpa's guitar, I would typically come in with a brass brush and I would just sand with the grain until I opened up the grain up under this paint. Because you can see, I hope you can kind of see some of that right there. It's naturally showing the Honduran mahogany that's up under it, because see, this is not a maple cap. And you could even distress this enough that, you can go all the way through it until the mahogany is revealed. And I may do that because I want to show that I elected not to go with maple on this guitar because I didn't want it to be too bright. This is such a fairly bright wood that I just didn't want to go there. I wanted to make certain that I kept a more clear note and a warmer note. But also, if I wanted to dig in and do some really aggressive, hardcore rockabilly or punchy stuff, I knew the Korina was going to take me there. But if I wanted to soften it up and do some real sweet, real warm, jazzy stuff, the Honduran mahogany top is going to allow that to happen. Okay. All right. So let me pause. I'll shoot some gold, and then we'll go from there. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. It's actually still wet. I don't even want to touch it because I sprayed it super heavy. I may have made a bit of a mistake when I was doing my initial sand work. What I probably should have done was just hit everything with like a 220 and then shot another coat of gold, even though it had a lot of orange peel. But I made the mistake. I started doing way too much level sand work. But it's okay. It's going to work out. It's just going to require that I do multiple gold spot to touch up those discolored areas. And I have got a discolored area right in here. In other words, it's thin. The lacquer is thin. I can see the mahogany through it, and then it was a little bit thin right in here, where I had sanded level, where I epoxy filled the anchor locations. Because if I do my B7 bridge, I don't want to run the risk of, seeing a raw spot there. But and then it's a little bit thin right in here, just because I sanded a little bit too much. So I say that to say this: don't get in a hurry, and I did. I got in a hurry when I was doing all of the initial sand work. I should have shot one more coat and then worked that coat down. But it is what it is. And then, if anything, if you got to this point, uh, but if you're thinking about doing the distress work, this area up here is definitely where it would be exposed. And then doubtful in this location, that's going to be chipped a little bit right around in here. And they definitely typically have a lot of chip work around the outside perimeter. And have a tendency to look like it was worn, where a lot of the rockabilly players would plant their fingers, and their fingers would ride along the body right there and wear the paint off. So if anything, that would definitely be an area where you would want to come in and kind of expose the fact that the top is not maple, or maybe yours is maple and you want to expose that maple. Or with mine, I would be exposing Honduran mahogany. So I like the idea of this guitar. There's about a 95% chance this guitar is going to look pretty road worn by the time I get through with it. I'll kind of tear through it a little bit. But the only reason I say that is because all my other guitars I try to finish them real pretty, but I want one that's kind of beat up a little bit, and this will probably be it. And if anything, you might be able to see the contour of my top now that it's kind of wet. I'm sorry, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm trying not to breathe into the camera. Okay, I'm holding my breath. Okay. Gotta breathe. I gotta breathe. I don't know if you could see that, but anyway, it's not much of a belly back here. Okay. Otherwise, it looks pretty good through the camera right there. And at this point, if you were going to start doing some aging, I have no idea how to go in and do the Verde green and stuff. Just do some research on that. I wouldn't want it that much relic, but I do like the darkness, the depth of this color that I've got going right here. But if you wanted to, you could come in and not spray the whole thing again, but you could come in and kind of do like a sunburst with a different tinting of your gold, meaning take your gold, I don't even know where it is. Oh, yes, over here. Oh, also, I completely forgot to mention, when you spray this type stuff, pull the little cartridge out of this and have some lacquer thinner in here and spray it through to clean your nozzle. Otherwise, this stuff is pretty dense and it will clog up. So don't leave it in the paint. But you could come in with your tints. Okay, now that you've got this gold base coat, if you wanted it to make it look really old and blotchy, then you could come in and you could pour this over into a different canister and retint it considerably darker, and then just spray kind of some heavy spots in certain locations. and kind of make it look like a Dalmatian, not like a Dalmatian, but just kind of let your imagination run with, or get a picture of a guitar that is truly vintage and just look at it and try to capture what it is you see in the picture. If it's really light up here, then or if it's really dark, find out wherever it's dark, and then come in with your deeper tints and just kind of hit those areas a little bit. Be careful because you'll very very quickly look artificial. I just like the idea of doing the initial tinting on the front and then going from there. But if you have this neutral base and whatever you sprayed atop it was too dark, well, then just sand it off until you get back to your original base color. Okay, so let me pause and let this dry for a little bit because I think it's too soon to try to shoot any more color. I don't want to rush it. You really need to wait about an hour, about an hour to 2 hours, especially when you spray as heavy as I just sprayed it. So, but let me pause. Okay, I've been letting it sit for about another 5 minutes or so, and it's dry enough to do a little bit of mock-up, but not dry enough to spray anymore. And the cool thing about it is, if you just let it lay flat, that stuff will level. It will level a little bit, but don't expect it to just mysteriously go away because that area is going to require a little bit more. And what I'll do here is I'm going to sand that down just a little and then continue working that area because I want to try to get it finished, completely solid one color, and then I'll make the determination of how much I want to remove later on. With your templates, you'll get little medallions like this that you can insert. This is also the medallion that you would use to route your control cavity cover on the back for the three-way, but you put that in the middle, and then there is a hole in the center by which you can identify the exact location for your three-way. Okay, that ought to be self-explanatory. So there's no excuse to get that location off right there. And all I did was just lay the template back up there. I did that a few minutes ago and set it on the 16th fret location, made certain that it was lined with everything, and then I dropped that little medallion in and found that location, so that now I'm able to just take my face nut and put this three-way up here and start watching the guitar materialize. I've already made those little dot locations down there based on the same thing. This template has an insert that you can put in here, and it gives you all 4 locations for the potentiometers. And then you can just start mocking up. You can ask yourself, okay, what does it look like? Do I like all the gold and the just the color variation? Do I want to stay nickel? And I think it would be wise to just stay nickel on the hardware for this type guitar because that's very much traditional. But I'll stick some gold up there just so you can see it. It's not very attractive, but we'll see. I think the B7 would land about right there. I don't have a gold bridge, but to me that looks too modern. But to each his own. But to me, this is when it really comes alive. If you've got a vintage old Bigsby, and to me, this is going to really motivate me to try to locate a B7, even if I have to buy one and distress it until I can find an authentic vintage one. I can barely see it. That's a good sign when you can't find your builder marks. See, that's a little bit. I just got a scrap piece of material on there. That Bigsby's too high. That arm is too high, and it's weird. Things like that drive me crazy. I don't want to see that arm sticking up like that. That's about the location. That's about as high as that arm would be. Also, I want to show you something here. if you can find an authentic vintage Bigsby, try to get it with that tail right there. That's really, really beautiful. Okay, obviously this is a B6. This would not work on this guitar. But I'm just showing you that tail location. I think the B7 would land about, it's basically just a B3. It's basically just a B3 with this additional material up here for the hold down pin, the roller bar. Can't think what that's called. But that's roughly the location of your vintage Bigsby B7. Very cool. First gold top I've ever built. The first gold anything I've ever built or sprayed. Let me tilt it over a little bit. Well, there she goes. Okay. Let me. Okay, so nothing goes up there. No Tassie kill switch or anything like that. Let's see what it would look like with black knobs. Never seen anyone do this. I don't really think it would be a mistake. And if it was a mistake, it'd be pretty simple to remove them. It's not like you're. I don't want to put black. I'll put black rings up there, but there's no way I would put. Well, maybe if you did the black knobs, you might want to go with black rings, but I don't like that. I'm gonna just shut up because somebody might like that. It's definitely different. Give it that. And the black matches the backdrop of the Bigsby patent number area. So nothing wrong with it. It's just it's not the guitar I would want to build. It needs to have the parchment or the antique white pickguard. Pickup rings. Okay, I can't really think of what else to talk. Oh wow, I don't know why I didn't think about this. This is off a 1980 Gibson Les Paul Custom that I restored. Rick let me keep this just for demonstration purpose. This is a 24 3/4 inch scale, but that's what it would look like if you did the custom, the block inlays. All right, let's see. Let's go back to the gold. So let's keep our true 50s period correct. And what year would this have been? I know they were doing gold tops in 52. I don't know when they introduced the bigs. I used to know that stuff, and it's funny. As I get older, or I hadn't thought about it one time, I forget. I can't remember if they had. I'm pretty certain they had the Bigsby. Yeah, they had to have the Bigsby because Paul Bigsby is the one that actually designed one of the first solid body guitars. So they probably had the Bigsby available on the very early Les Pauls, or at least I guarantee you, whenever the Bigsby got introduced, they were probably pulling that goofy trapeze thing off and putting the B7 Bigsby on an old 50s, early 50s gold top. And a lot of guys don't know this. I never knew this for a long time. But Les Paul himself, his favorite guitar was a Honduran mahogany body, Honduran mahogany neck, with a Honduran mahogany top. I don't know if they ever made a Korina Les Paul, but I know that Les Paul's favorite guitar was the one with the Honduran mahogany cap, which is what this guitar is. And the 59 replica that I've got upstairs that's black. It's a black standard. It has a Honduran mahogany top as well. And not only is it Honduran mahogany, but the top is quarter sawn on a chambered body. And that thing sounds like a piano. It's beautiful. It's just a beautiful tone. Okay, and I'm sorry, I didn't even really, I don't know if I spun it around this way to show the fretboard. A lot of times I do these videos just for my own selfish reasons because I want to see, what a guitar looks like. If I were to maybe, I hate about that. If I were to just change gears and go with block inlays rather than trapezoid, that's where I'm trying to go with this. And And sometimes what it looks like on the table is one thing, but then if you put it in video form, you might see it from a different angle, and you might really love what you see, even though it's not traditional. The block inlays. Okay. And to me, this is the most enjoyable part of building a guitar. Uh, and it's funny, as I get older, I'm at a point now. I wish I could just hire someone to do all the work, and I could just sit in the office, or sit right here and just design stuff, because I love doing the design and the layout. That's what I really prefer to do. I don't have a problem doing the physical work, and I enjoy it. But uh, okay, well, at least I got to capture that before it fell apart. And then let's see what it would look like with just your traditional tailpiece. And this is just a chrome. It's a cheap knockoff. It basically would be going pretty much in that location right there. It would be considerably lighter, I'll give it that. Let me set this down and get on the other side of the guitar. And definitely what we're used to seeing. But sometimes to me that's boring. And that's one of the reasons why I chambered the devil out of these guitar bodies, is so I could put a B7 on there if I wanted to. Okay. So let me pause and get this chaotic situation under control. Okay, we're only at 47 minutes, which that's kind of a long video, but I'm just going to spend a little bit more time doing a little more mock-up. No major change here, other than I just put a little spacer under that tailpiece to kind of help make it look a little bit more realistic. Oh, and I just realized I forgot to put the thumb wheels under that bridge. And pay attention to things like this, because if you're truly doing design work and you're trying to do get a visual, before you put this thing up on the drill press is where I'm going with this, and start cutting a bunch of holes. Get it as close to a finished mock-up as you can, and that'll really help. That's about to slide. Okay, I'm like 30 seconds away from just canceling this whole video. I'm definitely going to watch it, and if you see it, it means that it just barely passed test of being uploaded. But nonetheless, suffer through the BS to get, well, just can't do it. Okay, on that note, let me pause, and there's no sense in pausing. Let's set it up as a modern rocker with a Floyd Rose, which is near blasphemy for a 50s gold top. Well, a 59 at that. But let's push it to the envelope. I gotta be really careful that I don't let that Floyd Rose slide off the thing. That's not a Floyd Rose, that's just a cheap knockoff. And I am definitely not going to tilt this one. Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Let me stick this truss rod up under there. Truss rod cover. And that, I gotta be really careful that it doesn't slide. helps a little bit if you were doing like a floating Floyd Rose, which I will say this: the Les Paul lends itself really well to a floating Floyd Rose because of the whole pitch of the string path and everything. So yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Or you could come in and do something kind of odd and modern, like if you're running like a four conductor JB right there, you could do a double pull, double throw to achieve your parallel or split or series, and then maybe run. I've been wanting to build this guitar, not out of this one, but neck volume, bridge volume, master tone, and a double pull, double throw to control to achieve the ethereal bliss of parallel, as I like to say, in the bridge pickup. Um, that would be pretty cool as a modern guitar. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. And as soon as you walked out on stage with that, it would be completely obvious that wow, yeah, this is definitely a custom build. You know, this is not your grandpa's Les Paul. I got a table full of crap over there, so okay. All right, so let's take it back to traditional and end on a happy note because that's a little extreme. But if you're gonna build guitars, the cool thing about having this stuff on your table is you look over at it, you'll see that Floyd Rose, and the next thing you know, you're building the guitar around it. Or if you got lucky and you found something like this for dirt cheap, there have been a lot of times when I've built an entire guitar around a vintage Bigsby because it was laying over on the table and it motivated me to locate the ideal wood, the ideal fretboard, you name it, and build a guitar around a vintage item like that. We'll go back with the traditional. Takes all the guesswork out of it by having these templates where you can identify all these locations. And if you miss historical by just a small fraction, then even the untrained eye will see that it's not historically accurate or correct. It doesn't take much to lose it. But if you follow these templates, and I'm not affiliated with anyone at all, no one. And I don't allow, advertising on my channel. I'm not trying to monetize. So yeah, I like these templates. They do have some issues and whatnot, but I discovered those issues and I worked through them. And I know now when I'm building the guitar, not to trust the center line on this template, which sucks. I paid money for that to be able to trust that, but now I can't because this is off a little bit. But once I got over the whole anger of spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get those templates and discovered the discrepancies, now I just know that if I'm getting ready to build this guitar or a replica, I just have to work around some of those things. Okay, so that leveled out a little bit better. Let's see if we can capture some of that gold, how it leveled in a little bit. So I think by the time I shoot one or two more coats, I should be getting a fairly good build on that. And then let it dry. You need to allow it to dry a minimum of an hour to 2 hours between spraying the nitrocellulose lacquer. And then after you are finished with your color, then come in with your, you can just buy this in the can. You can get it like a Woodcraft or something like that. M113 1406, this atomizes extremely well. Spray a couple of real thin coats, maybe 2 or 3 coats within an hour interval between each time you spray it. Wait about 7 days, then start buffing with 400, 600, 800, 1200 maybe, then up to 1500 grit, and then you'll have a mirror glow if you want it to look like a shiny new guitar. And if you want it to be unbelievable depth, then you'll want to wet sand with the 1500 grit and then use the MIG wires and wax it. Okay, I'm covering all this stuff because I have no idea when I'm going to do another video related to this guitar, because the way I'm finishing the blue sapphire guitar, I'm having to hurry up and do something so I can wait for a day and a half, and then hurry up and do something, then wait for a day and a half. And I have no idea when I'll even be finishing this guitar, okay? Because I don't have the fretboard machined for it or anything. Probably will be going with a Gabon ebony fretboard, and I do have the trapezoid inlays in-house. So I probably will keep it traditional, but that's a little bit undecided right there. Okay, all right. I appreciate you guys dropping in. Hope it wasn't a waste of time. I probably won't do any more videos this week because of Thanksgiving coming up. So, but if I do, I'll try to just keep it general and make certain that it has some sort of reasoning or meaning behind it. So I'm looking around the shop. I don't see anything. So I appreciate you guys dropping in, and I'll see you in the next video.